Hi, it's me, Adem. The story begins with a criminal who is attacking a mini-market. In the midst of the incident, there was a man who was passing the mini-market. He was accidentally hit by two girls who were running away from the pursuit of a criminal who was carrying a knife. He invited the two girls to run, but because they couldn't stand up, the criminal was preparing to attack them both. As a brave man, yes, he certainly looked very brave, he tried to fight back against the criminal man. He managed to save the two girls. However, the handsome and brave man had to fall down and was lifeless. He was hit by the criminal's knife. At the end of his life, the man felt grateful for saving the two girls. He even apologized for making the two girls cry. However, he woke up in a place that was unfamiliar to him. He thought it was a hospital, but after turning to a maid there, he was suddenly shocked because the maid immediately cried. The maid approached him while calling him Mr. Cain. He was even surprised by the figure of a young mother who hugged him. She said that she was his mother. After calming down, Cain tried to get used to his body. It made his mother and the maid feel confused. They assumed that Cain was still dazed because he had slept for a whole week. After getting so much attention, his mother felt that Cain needed to eat. She then asked the maid to prepare soup for Cain. After they both left there, Cain then looked in the mirror and saw himself. He was shocked to see himself becoming a child. He then checked around to make sure if he had really been reincarnated. Even though he knew that he did not survive, he was grateful that he had saved the two girls before. When Cain was confused with himself, the maid named Sylvia came in and saw Cain, who was checking his anaconda. As a kind and caring maid, Sylvia thought that Cain had wet his pants and immediately pulled down Cain's pants. He immediately screamed in embarrassment. After he finished eating, Cain was then carried by Sylvia. But thanks to Sylvia being there, he learned some important information about himself. First, his full name is Cain von Silford. He is now 3 years old, and his father is named Cain von Silford. His mother is named Sarah, and the older sister, who is 2 years older than him, is named Rain. Other information is that his mother turned out to be the second wife of Garm. Garm's first wife is named Maria, with two sons named Jin and Alec. Garm turned out to be a high-class nobleman. He used to handle border issues in his country, capitalizing on their private military forces after being continuously taught by Sylvia. Cain was excited because various things were there, ranging from forest monsters, adventure, and magic. Seeing Cain, who was enthusiastic about learning magic, Sylvia also told him that it was too early for a child his age to practice magic. It would be better if Cain learned to read first. Then, he remembered the memories of his past life, which even though he was gone, but he seemed to have no regrets at all in his old world. Garm was very proud of Cain because he could already read. While hugging her younger brother, Raina also boasted of her brother who could also count. Even though he was praised several times, Cain could only remain silent because he was actually in high school. The mother who thought Cain was a genius child. Cain instead humbled and praised Sylvia, who taught him. After knowing, Garm became a little suspicious because Cain suddenly studied hard. The mother also felt that the change happened right after Cain woke up. Hearing this, Cain and Sylvia suddenly became worried. After being told the reason, Garm then asked what Cain wanted. He immediately asked to be read a book about history and magic. Cain seemed very interested in magic, but it was still not allowed until he was 5 years old. His mother was not even sure if her son would be able to master magic, but apparently, just by learning through reading books, Cain was able to use some basic magic. Long story short, Cain did something stupid that almost got himself caught. While practicing magic, Cain was surprised because Rainey was already in front of him. He thought that his older sister knew about it. However, it turned out that Rainey suspected something else, namely that Cain was secretly learning about the outside world. But after Rainey told him many things, Cain also got quite a lot of information about his new world. One of them was the first king of the country, named Yuya. It made Cain realize that Yuya was Japanese like himself. Rainey also told the various types of races that existed in their world, namely elves, dwarves, and human animals. Until 2 years had passed. Now Cain was 5 years old. That meant he was already allowed to use magic. On the way, Cain was amazed by the outside world, where there were lots of royal people shopping in the market. Then Cain asked Rain about magic status. Rain immediately brought up her magic status. There, Cain was amazed by the status of his older sister, who was able to use 3 elements of magic. His father also told him that their country had a belief called Marineford. which was a belief that worshipped 7 gods. The point of Cain's baptism turned out to be just reporting the age of the chain that had reached 5 years to the 7 gods. Then in this way, the baptized child will get magic and also the gift of a certain god. Then, when the priest delivered the report to the 7 god statues in front of him, he was unexpectedly surprised because his consciousness was transferred to face the gods. Each god and goddess there has a variety of different gifts. Long story short, the 7 gods gave their respective gifts to Cain. After their time was up, Cain had to return to his new world. But at the end, he found a Xenom who laughed just before he returned. After returning, Cain was asked to show his magic status, but instead, he said he wanted to go to the bathroom. While he was hiding, Cain was shocked because of all his skill level statuses. The skills he had really didn't make sense. Cain felt that it should be hidden. He even found the creator magic given by Xenom to fake his magic status. Long story short, while Cain and his family were celebrating his birthday, they were curious about Cain's magic status. Garm then asked Cain to show his status window. They were surprised because Cain received gifts from 7 gods at once. Moreover, Garm was surprised to see the amount of mana owned by Cain, which was abnormal. With all the skills, magic, and mana owned by Cain, it is certain if Cain's mana can definitely succeed in all fields. Garm then forbade Cain to show his magic status in front of others. He was afraid that Cain would be used by the government. After that, Cain, who was resting, he found a tutorial book for summoner magic. Cain immediately tried it, but unexpectedly it turned out that Rainey and Parma were not far from that place. It made the monster shift its focus to the 2 girls. Cain then ventured to attack the monster. He didn't want his sister and Parma to get hurt. He was determined not to make them cry like the 2 girls in his previous life. Cain used the summon skill again to cancel the monster he summoned. As a result, the monster was successfully returned to its original place. Rain and Parma cried because Cain was helplessly limp, but Cain tried to calm them down and said that he was okay. And finally, Cain felt happy because he could create a happy smile from the 2 girls. Long story short, there was a day of Cain's birthday celebration which was attended by the residents. The father asked what Cain wanted to do in the future. Cain replied that he wanted to learn many things, help people in trouble, and meet many people. In the evening, when Cain and his family were having dinner together, Garm said that he would give Cain a private tutor so that Cain could learn more about his dreams. Hearing that, of course, made Cain feel very happy, and he couldn't wait for his private tutor to come. Cain imagined that his private tutor would have a muscular body or like a magical grandmother. But not long after, Sylvia told him that his private tutor had arrived. Hearing that, Cain immediately saw her through the window and intended to approach them directly with his teleportation skill, but instead he fell right on top of his private teacher. Sylvia introduced Cain's new private teachers named Millie and Nina. They both have 3 years to teach Cain about everything. Then they invited Cain to immediately start their training session. The first exercise, Millie asked Cain to show his sword skills, but Millie was troubled by him. Even Nina also felt that Cain's swordsmanship was better than Millie. Millie then asked Nina to take over by teaching Cain about magic. Nina, who has level 3 magic from the goddess of magic, was also shocked by Cain. Nina tried to teach Cain from basic, but Cain can already do that, even trying to show his talent. Nina was amazed to find a 5-year-old child who could use magic without spells, and also Cain who could use all the elements of magic. They felt that they would not be able to teach Cain anything. Soon, they were both even more surprised to find out that Cain could use item boxes. They would now teach Cain advanced magic, but they had to study outside the training ground for fear that the place would be destroyed. While they were practicing, they decided to practice outside. After getting permission from Garm, they went not too far from the city. Cain was very excited because he could finally see the outside world that he had always wanted. They arrived at a place a little far from the city. They intended to practice there. Nina told Cain to cast medium-level magic towards a large rock. The rock was located not far from there. Again and again, they were surprised to see Cain's overpowering magic power. They thought that Cain should feel weak after casting such a large amount of magic, but when they saw the amount of Cain's mana, they were even more surprised. Cain's mana seemed endless. Then Millie and Nina asked Cain to be quiet for a moment, because they both heard something from the forest. It turned out that there was a killer rabbit that came to attack. After successfully exterminating a killer rabbit, they both seemed amazed because Cain's item box was very practical. They told him that it took a lot of money to buy a magic bag. It turns out that besides item boxes, there are also magic items that have almost the same use. They both said that one day they wanted that too. After that, they intended to continue the hunt and chose to leave the search to Nina. Nina immediately performed the monster's mana detection magic. Knowing that, Cain wanted to try it. They were immediately surprised because Cain could find out the exact number of monsters there, and in the end, they tried to stop thinking about Cain's talent, which was completely irrational. When they were about to defeat all the killer rabbits, something escaped into the forest. Cain tried to chase it, but Millie and Nina forbade him from going in there because it was a dangerous forest. There were monsters too strong for them. It is known that every few tens of years, many strong monsters come out of there. The monsters will invade the city in large numbers, although Cain said that he understood. But in his heart, he wanted to enter the forest someday. Long story short, Cain was surprised to find that his level had increased quite a lot just by defeating a few killer rabbits. It turns out that Cain has a passive skill that allows him to increase EXP 100 times. He also knew it must be the work of the gods. Cain became afraid that he would be watched or even arrested by the government if he was too overpowered. When they were about to take a mission at the guild, the receptionist there thought Cain was a little adventurer. But Cain told her that he was not old enough to register as an adventurer. After Millie told him that Cain was the son of Garm, the receptionist was shocked and immediately changed her way of speaking to be much more polite. Not long after, someone came and teased Millie in front of Cain, after laughing and forcing them to pour drinks. When Nina wanted to help Millie, she was also stopped by the punk. But before he could touch Nina, Cain stopped the man and hit him with his small hand. The punk wondered who Cain really was. Cain dodged his attack and replied that he was the son of Cain von Silford. This punk was so embarrassing. He was defeated by a 5-year-old child. The punk tried to attack Cain once again. With an impromptu attack, he felt cornered again. He even intended to use his sword. Although worried, but Millie and Nina could not do anything in such conditions. Cain became angry and in the blink of an eye managed to defeat the punk. After defeating him, Cain saw Millie, who was threatened by other punks, but Cain immediately taught them, after thanking Cain. Those who wanted to forget what had just happened made Millie invite Cain to leave for the forest. After 3 years passed, now Cain is 8 years old. Sylvia informed that Millie and Nina refused to continue being Cain's private teacher. They told him that an adventurer should not stay in one place. Cain wanted to give something as a gift to them because for 3 years, Millie and Nina had taken very good care of him. After remembering that they really wanted a magic bag, that made Cain enter the forest to hunt for materials. It certainly made the guards panic, thinking that a monster outbreak had occurred in their city. Feeling that the material was enough, Cain teleported home. During the final exam, Cain thanked them and gave them the magic bag he made as a gift. They were surprised because Cain said he made the bag himself. They were very surprised that the raw materials for the bag came from 2 very powerful monsters, the Blood Ogre and the Earth Dragon. They were surprised again because it was estimated that the bag could accommodate a palace. The magic bag made by Cain was equivalent in rank to a national treasure. They were afraid that they would become the target of wicked people. Cain tried to calm them down because their magic bags could adjust to their master, but both of their magic bags had been arranged by Cain. Even so, Millie and Nina still accepted it and thanked Cain in a way that made you jealous to see it. After that, Cain and his father left for the capital. On the way, Cain realized that there was an attack in front of them. Knowing that there was a danger that wanted to disturb them, Cain then decided to leave first. Then Cain came and immediately used his magic power to fight the monster in front of him. Because he was too overpowered, he even easily defeated all the monsters in front of him. Even after defeating all the monsters, Cain then immediately healed the wounded soldiers with his magic. Not long after came the father, who was worried about Cain's condition. The father then immediately got off the train, but they were all shocked by the conditions in front of them. Even the father was also surprised by the figure who got off the carriage. It turned out to be Princess Telestia and Miss Silk. They thanked Cain and his father. it was because they had helped them from danger. After that, Cain introduced himself to the princess, but suddenly the princess felt weak. Then Cain asked permission to calm her down with magic to the princess. The princess felt happy after Cain calmed her with his magic. Now her heart felt happy and much calmer than before. After feeling better, the princess again thanked Cain for saving her from a dangerous situation. After that, Cain was invited to go together to the debut party. It was done because they both still felt anxious. In the carriage, Cain seemed to feel uncomfortable with his sitting position flanked by the princess and Miss Silk. He then asked permission to move from there, but the princess prevented him because the princess felt calm if she was next to Cain. The soldier then told them that the city of Renoma was almost in sight. He asked the passengers to get ready. They then got off the horse-drawn carriage. The princess invited Cain to rest together in the city of Renoma. When they arrived there, Cain tried to ask permission to leave, but the princess did not allow him. Instead of being able to get away from the princess, Cain was invited to stay with her. But Cain felt it was too much. He tried to refuse the request from the princess, but the princess still wanted to stay with Cain, even though Garm had offered to send a guard for the princess. But the princess still wanted to be accompanied by Cain. She said that when she was next to Cain, she would feel calmer. Reluctantly, Cain accepted the princess's invitation. But his father asked Cain to behave because he was already 10 years old. After that, they went to the room. In the room, the princesses fought over wanting to sleep next to Cain. They even stuck their mattresses together, in contrast to Cain, who felt that the previous distance was enough for them to sleep. But here, Cain could not do much. He preferred to give in and sleep together. The next day, they then continued their journey to their destination. On the way, the princess asked if Cain had slept well last night. Resignedly, Cain then said, how could he sleep well when he was in such a position? Long story short, they had arrived at their destination. Upon arrival at the royal palace, they were greeted by Daib in a kind and friendly manner. Even he was very grateful to Cain. Thanks to his keenness, Cain had protected the princess and had delivered his companion safely to the destination. Cain said that the fighters fought bravely to save the princess. After that, Cain excused himself to leave, but Daim tried to hold him back and told Cain to meet with the king first. After meeting with the king, Cain received a reward for saving Princess Telestia and Miss Silk. He even delivered the dead soldiers to the capital. Cain was appointed baron by the king and given 10 silver coins and a mansion. But there was someone who did not accept all that. He argued because Cain was still a 10-year-old child, but he had gotten such an excessive increase in level, but the king still wanted to give it to Cain. Then after that, Cain accepted happily when the king stood up to leave from there. Cain asked permission to go home, but the king did not allow him. Cain was told to wait in the guest room by the king. After a while, the king came back with the princess and her bodyguard to thank Cain. The gratitude was conveyed for helping him and invited Cain to talk about Cain's promotion. After talking with Cain, the king then offered Cain to marry the princess. However, because of their young age, the king then told them to get engaged first, because the king knew that Cain had slept with their daughter. The king also decided that Cain would live in his country. Cain felt that the request was too sudden, but it was impossible for Cain to refuse the offer. That's why Cain accepted the engagement reluctantly. Hearing that, the princess looked very happy. She couldn't wait to get engaged with Cain. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and see you guys on the next part.